when the alien girl hugged her melons and said, "Humans love melons more than life." The night was quiet. The wide farm field stretched under the silver moonlight. Crickets sang their endless song, and the old wooden house of the farmer stood like a lonely guard in the middle of the land. The farmer, John Miller, had just finished his long day of work. His hands were rough, his boots were covered in dust, and his shirt was wet with sweat. He walked out into the cool night air, holding a lantern. John always checked the fields before going to bed. He was careful like that, and he loved his farm more than anything. To him, these fields were not just soil and crops, they were his whole life. As John walked, something strange caught his eyes. The ground began to glow faintly, like fireflies hiding under the soil. At first, he thought it was a trick of his tired eyes. But then, the glow grew brighter. His heart beat faster. He set the lantern down and stared at the strange light moving in the distance. It wasn't fire, it wasn't lightning, and it wasn't the moon. It was something else. A low humming sound filled the air, deep and steady, like the sky itself was breathing. John froze. He felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. And then it happened. A beam of light shot down from the heavens. It was bright white, almost blinding. The crops bent under the force of the energy, and the air trembled. John shielded his eyes with his arm, but he could not look away. Something, or someone, was coming down. The light faded slowly, and there she was. A girl stood in the middle of his field. Not a human girl. Her skin was pale silver, glowing softly like polished metal under the moon. Her hair floated around her shoulders as if touched by invisible wind. Her eyes were large, shining like liquid stars. John's mouth went dry. He had seen many strange things in his life: storms, fires, accidents. But never anything like this. The girl held something in her arms, two strange round fruits, glowing with faint golden light. They looked like melons, but not the kind John had ever grown. Their surface shimmered, smooth and alive, as if tiny sparks moved inside. She looked at John with innocent eyes, tilted her head, and then spoke in a soft, clear voice. "I know humans love melons," she said. And then she hugged the glowing fruits tightly against her chest, smiling like a child proud of her treasure. John blinked. He couldn't believe his ears. "What did you just say?" The girl nodded eagerly. "Melons. Humans love melons." For a moment, silence filled the field. Only the wind moved, rustling the leaves. John's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't know whether to laugh, to run, or to pray. "Lady," John whispered, you're not from around here, are you?" The girl looked confused. Her head tilted again. "Not around here, no. I came from far, very far." She pointed to the sky. "Up there." John felt his knees weaken. He wanted to believe it was a dream. But the glow of her skin, the power of the beam, and the strange fruit she held told him this was real. "Why here? Why my field?" he asked. His voice shook slightly. The girl smiled, her silver face soft and kind. "Because humans are interesting. I studied them. I wanted to bring a gift." She looked at the melons again, hugging them as if they were precious jewels. John laughed nervously, though fear still gripped him. "A gift? Melons?" She nodded. "Yes. Humans love melons, don't they?" John had no words. He only stared. Something deep in his gut told him this was not a joke. This was the start of something big, something dangerous, or maybe something wonderful. He could not tell yet. The girl stepped closer, her bare feet not making a sound on the soil. The air around her seemed a little lighter, almost charged with energy. The melons glowed brighter as she moved. John took a step back, not out of hatred, but out of shock. "What are you?" he asked quietly. "What are you?" he asked quietly. She looked at him again with her shining star eyes, and then she whispered, "I am not enemy. I am not danger. I am learning." A chill ran down John's spine. Learning. About what? About humans? About Earth? Before he could ask more, the dog began to bark. His old sheepdog, Rusty, ran out of the barn, growling at the stranger. But the girl only smiled at the dog. She knelt down, still hugging her melons, and looked at Rusty. The dog stopped growling, tilted his head, and then wagged his tail, as if he had just seen a friend. John's eyes widened. "Well, I'll be damned." The girl stood again, watching John with a gentle smile. But behind that smile, John felt there was something else. A secret. A reason she was here. And deep inside, he knew this was not about Melons at all. This was only the beginning. If you are enjoying this strange and mysterious story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. More amazing sci-fi adventures are coming, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The night air grew heavy. The stars above seemed to watch silently as John Miller stood face to face with the silver-skinned girl. The strange glow of her melons still lit the field in soft golden light, making the crop shimmer as though touched by magic. John's hands were trembling slightly, though he tried to hide it. He was a man of the soil, tough and practical. But nothing in his life had prepared him for this. An alien girl who spoke broken English, hugging glowing fruit like a child clutching toys. The girl tilted her head, her silver hair falling like threads of light around her shoulders. Her voice was calm, almost musical. "You are human, yes?" she asked. John swallowed hard. "Yes, human. And you?" She pressed the glowing melons closer to her chest, as if nervous he might take them away. "I am from far sky. My name cannot be said in human words." She paused, then added with a soft smile, "But you may call me Leora." "Liora," John repeated, the name tasting strange on his tongue. "Why are you here?" Her eyes widened, glowing faintly in the moonlight. "I studied humans. I watched from far away. Humans are curious, strange, dangerous, but also kind." John's brow furrowed. He felt the unease in her words. "Studied? You mean spied on us?" She blinked, not understanding the insult. "Observed, learned. We wish to understand what makes humans humans." She looked down at the melons, her fingers brushing their glowing surface. "So I brought gift. These melons. They feed, they heal, they create life." Her voice trembled, as if she were confessing something forbidden. John stared at the glowing fruits. They pulsed softly, as though a heartbeat lived inside them. For the first time, he wondered if they were even fruits at all. "Why bring them to me?" he asked. Her lips curved into a small, innocent smile. "Because you were alone. No crowd, no soldiers, no guns. Just you. And this land. Safer to meet you first." John scratched his beard nervously. "You mean, you picked me by accident?" She tilted her head again, studying him like a strange animal. "No, not accident. You are human, but not greedy. You work, you sweat, you protect. I saw you many times. You care for this land. That is rare." A chill ran down his spine. How long had she been watching him? Before he could ask, Leora crouched down and placed one of the glowing melons on the ground. The soil beneath it shivered, tiny green shoots pushing up almost instantly. John gasped as fresh plants, small, delicate vines, began to grow before his very eyes. The melon pulsed once, twice, then stopped glowing. Its energy had transferred into the soil. Within seconds, healthy leaves spread out across the dirt. John stepped back, his lantern shaking in his hand. "Good Lord!" he whispered. Leora stood again, smiling softly. 1 melon can feed 1,000 in 1 day. John couldn't believe it. This could end hunger. This could change everything. Her smile faded. She hugged the remaining melon tightly. Yes, but only if used with care, if used with greed. Her voice dropped, suddenly cold. It becomes poison. John's eyes narrowed. Poison? What do you mean? She shook her head, her silver hair catching the moonlight. Not now. Too much to explain. You will see. Soon. The words filled John with dread. Something about the way she clutched the fruit, the way her voice quivered. It was as if she was hiding a terrible truth. Before he could press further, Rusty the dog began growling again. This time it wasn't at Leora. His ears stood sharp, his nose pointed to the dark edge of the field. John followed his gaze, and his stomach dropped. Something moved among the shadows of the trees. Tall shapes, silent, watching. Do you see them? John whispered. Leora's face turned pale, even for her silver skin. Her glowing eyes darted to the tree line. Her hands tightened around the melon until her knuckles glowed faintly. They followed me, she said softly. Her voice was no longer calm. It was filled with fear. Who? John asked sharply. She stepped back, almost trembling. Hunters. They are not human. They want the melons. They cannot have them. The wind picked up, carrying the faint hiss of movement. The shadows grew taller, closer. John clenched his fists. You brought them here? Leora's eyes filled with regret. I did not want to, but they always follow. They can smell the melons across stars. John's chest tightened. His farm, his land, his simple, quiet life. Suddenly all of it was caught in something far bigger, something cosmic. Leora looked at him, her eyes almost pleading. You must trust me. I did not come to harm, but they will kill. The night grew darker. The stars above seemed to hide behind clouds as if the heavens themselves feared what was coming. Hen's heart raced. He didn't know what to do. He had no weapon that could stand against whatever lurked in the trees, and yet, deep inside, he knew he couldn't abandon her. She wasn't just an alien girl holding glowing fruit. She was a spark of something bigger, something dangerous and miraculous at the same time. Rusty barked louder now, his tail stiff, his body ready. The shadows moved again. John saw faint red glimmers like burning eyes in the dark. Leora whispered, They are here. Her voice shook, but her grip on the melon was firm. John noticed for the first time that the fruit was pulsing faster, brighter, as if sensing danger. John turned his eyes to her. Then what do we do? She looked at him with desperate courage. We survive. The shadows stepped out from the trees, tall, armored figures, their bodies black as iron, their faces hidden behind masks. They carried weapons that glowed with strange red energy. One of them raised his arm, pointing at Leora. His voice was deep and metallic. Return the seed, or die. Leora stepped back, her silver skin glowing faintly against the dark. She clutched the melon tighter, and for a moment John thought she might cry. But then her face hardened. She whispered to herself, almost too quiet for John to hear, They will see why humans are feared. The night had turned into something out of a nightmare. John Miller stood frozen in his own field, his lantern trembling in his hand, while the alien girl, Leora, clutched the glowing melon like it was her very life. The hunters stepped fully into the moonlight now. There were 3 of them. They were tall, much taller than any human, with black armor that seemed to swallow light itself. Their masks had glowing red eyes, cold and empty, like fire burning in iron skulls. Each carried a weapon that pulsed with red energy, humming with a low, deadly sound. John felt his heart hammering in his chest. He was just a farmer. This wasn't his fight. He had no weapon, no training, no reason to be standing between creatures from the stars. And yet, he could not move. Something about Leora's trembling figure, the way she stood behind him, clutching that glowing fruit, made him stay. One of the hunters raised his weapon, pointing directly at Leora. His voice was deep, metallic, and cruel. "Return the seed," he commanded, "or your blood will feed the soil." John flinched at the words. Seed? That glowing melon wasn't just food, it was something far more dangerous. Leora's silver skin glowed faintly as she shook her head. Her voice trembled but carried strength. "No, you cannot have it. The seed is not for you. It is for life, not death." The hunter laughed, a harsh, mechanical sound that made the crops shiver. "Life? No. Power. That seed is the heart of a world, and it belongs to us." John's stomach twisted. The heart of a world. What in God's name was she carrying? He whispered sharply over his shoulder. "What is he talking about, Leora? What are these things really?" Her eyes flickered toward him, full of fear and guilt. For a moment, she said nothing. Then slowly she spoke. "They are not melons. Not truly. They are seeds. Each seed can create forests, oceans, whole world. They are gifts from the beginning, older than my people, older than the stars." John's mouth went dry. "Worlds." She nodded, clutching the glowing fruit tighter. "Yes. A single seed can turn empty rock into living planet. It can feed millions. It can heal. Or it can destroy." Her voice broke at the last word. The hunters stepped closer, their boots crushing the soil with heavy thuds. The leader spoke again. "Give it to us. You know what happens if you resist." Leora's silver eyes hardened. "I know. I saw what you did. Worlds burned, civilizations crushed. You twist life into weapons." She turned to John, her voice urgent now. "You must understand. If they take this seed, they will use it to grow war, not peace. A planet of weapons, a garden of death." John felt a chill crawl down his spine. He stared at the glowing fruit in her arms, its golden light pulsing like a heartbeat. It was no gift. It was a burden, a treasure so powerful, whole armies would kill for it. "Why bring it here?" he asked in a harsh whisper. "Why Earth? Why me?" Leora's voice cracked, almost like a confession. "Because humans are different. You are greedy, yes, but also brave. You risk your lives for each other. You protect. You hope. My people, we forgot hope. We only survived. I wanted to see if humans could guard something pure." John's fists clenched. She had chosen him not by chance, but by faith. And now, because of that, his farm was about to become a battlefield. The hunters raised their weapons higher. A red glow spread across the field, bathing the crops in bloody light. The dog barked furiously, teeth bared, ready to defend. John whispered to himself, "Lord, help me." And then he stepped forward, just enough to place himself fully between Leora and the hunters. The leader tilted his head, as if amused. "A human? Protecting her? Fool. Your kind is weak." John's voice shook. "Yea," but he did not back down. "You'll have to go through me first." For a moment, silence hung in the field. Even the crickets stopped singing. Then the hunter laughed again, raising his weapon. "So be it." The weapon crackled, red lightning sparking along its edge. But before the hunter could fire, the melon in Leora's arms pulsed, bright, alive, furious. A shockwave of golden light exploded outward, slamming into the hunters. They stumbled back, their armor smoking, their glowing eyes flickering. The ground itself shook, cracks spreading in the soil. John staggered but stayed on his feet. Leora held the melon tighter, her face twisted in both pain and determination. "They know now," she whispered. "The seed is awake." John's voice was hoarse. "What does that mean?" Her silver eyes met his, glowing brighter than ever. "It means it has chosen." The melon pulsed again, and this time John felt it, not just in his chest, but deep inside his bones. A warmth spread through him, a strange connection he could not explain. The hunters steadied themselves, their red weapons crackling again. The leader roared, "You cannot stop us! The seed belongs to power!" But John noticed something. The melon's light was stronger when he stood close. The glow seemed to respond to him, not to Leora. She noticed it too, her lips parted in shock. It listens to you." John shook his head. "I don't understand," she whispered quickly, urgent and afraid. "The seeds choose guardians. They bond to will, to heart, not strength. And it has chosen you, John Miller, a human." The weight of her words hit him like thunder. A simple farmer, a man of soil and sweat, chosen by a seed that could create or destroy worlds. The hunters advanced again, weapons raised, eyes burning red. Leora grabbed John's arm. "If you run, it will die with you. If you stand, it will awaken. You must decide, now." John's lantern flickered in the wind. Rusty barked again, fierce and unyielding. The golden light pulsed against his chest like a second hear, beat. He looked at the hunters, at their weapons, at their red fire. He looked at Leora, desperate but full of faith. And then he looked at the melon, no, the seed, that seemed to be waiting for him. He took a deep breath. His voice was quiet, steady. "Then we stand." The ground shook again. The seed glowed brighter, golden waves spreading across the field. The hunters raised their weapons, but the soil beneath their feet cracked open, vines shooting upward, wrapping around their armored legs. John felt the power coursing through the land, through him. For the first time in his life, he was part of something greater than farming, greater than earth. And for the first time, the hunters looked uncertain. The leader hissed, "Impossible." But Leora's eyes shone with tears. "No, human, possible." The war for the seed had only just begun. The night no longer felt like night. The golden light of the seed burned against John's chest, glowing stronger with every heartbeat. The soil around his boots cracked open with thin green vines, moving like living snakes, responding to the seed's energy. The wind howled across the fields, carrying with it the smell of burning ozone. Across from him, the hunters stood tall, their black armor gleaming with the reflection of red fire. Their glowing eyes narrowed, and the humming of their weapons grew louder. The leader of the hunters raised his weapon high. His metallic voice echoed through the night. "You cannot fight us. Hand over the seed, or your planet will drown in fire." John's throat was dry, but his voice came out steady. "You'll have to go through me." The words sounded almost foolish coming from a farmer, with no weapon but an old shotgun hanging uselessly on his porch. And yet, when he said them, the seed pulsed brighter, almost as if approving his courage. Leora, standing just behind him, whispered in awe, "It listens to you. It believes in you." The hunters moved forward. Each step made the ground tremble. Their weapons hissed with red energy, lighting the field in an eerie glow. Rusty, John's old sheepdog, barked and growled, refusing to back down. Then the first shot came. A blast of red fire shot across the field, striking the soil only a few feet from John. The earth exploded, sending dirt flying into the air. John stumbled, but the seed glowed fiercely, and the vines surged upward, wrapping themselves into a living shield. The blast hit the vines, and instead of burning, the green branches absorbed the energy, glowing brighter. The hunters paused, clearly unsettled. John's voice was shaky, but he forced himself to stand taller. "Guess we're not so weak after all." The leader growled, raising his weapon again. "Seeds belong to power, not to RT-born animals." With a roar, all three hunters opened fire. Red blasts streaked across the night sky, each one aimed to kill. But the seed responded instantly. The vines twisted and shot upward, forming a wall of green that absorbed the energy. Sparks flew as golden and red light clashed, the field turning into a storm of color. John felt the vines moving not just around him, but through him. It was as though his heartbeat, his will, commanded them. When he raised his arm, the vines lashed out, striking one hunter across the chest and knocking him back into the crops. Leora gasped. "It is bonded. You are its guardian now." John's mind reeled. Guardian? He was no warrior. He was just a farmer, and yet the seed had chosen him. Another blast came, this time from the side. John turned instinctively, and the vines moved with him, blocking the attack. But the energy still tore across his arm, burning his skin. He cried out, dropping to one knee. The leader of the hunters sneered, stepping closer. "The seed cannot protect you forever, human. Your body will break. Your soul will burn." John's vision blurred. Pain throbbed across his arm. But when he looked up, he saw Leora staring at him, her silver eyes filled with both fear and faith. "Do not give up," she whispered urgently. "The seed answers to courage, not strength. If you fear, it weakens. If you stand, it fights." Her words cut through the haze of pain. John gritted his teeth, clenched his fist, and stood again. He planted his boots firmly into the soil of his land. "This is my field," he growled. "My home. You want her. You want this seed. You'll have to bury me first." The golden glow erupted like fire from his chest. The vines surged higher, wrapping around the hunters like serpents of light. One of them struggled, roaring in frustration as the vines pulled his weapon away. Another was slammed to the ground, the soil itself rising to hold him down. The leader, however, did not fall. His armor cracked under the vines, but his weapon still burned with red fire. With a roar, he tore through the branches, stepping closer. "You think you can stop us?" His voice was full of rage. "The seeds belong to war. They always have." Leora shouted back, her voice trembling but strong. "No, they belong to life, to creation. That is why you will never understand them." The leader swung his weapon toward her, a blast of red energy charging at the tip. John's heart nearly stopped. Without thinking, he leapt in front of her. The blast fired straight into his chest. For a moment, silence. The world seemed to freeze. John's eyes widened, the red energy burning into him. But then the seed pulsed, hard, furious, alive. The golden light erupted outward, swallowing the red fire whole. The energy dissolved, vanishing into nothing. The leader stumbled back, his red eyes flickering. "Impossible!" John stood tall, golden fire running across his skin like cracks of light. His voice came out deeper, stronger, filled with something not entirely human. "It's not impossible. It's human." The ground erupted. The vines surged higher than ever, tearing through the soil, wrapping around the hunters like chains. The leader roared, struggling against the living storm, but for the first time he could not break free. The vines pulled tighter, glowing with golden fire. The hunters screamed, their armor cracking, their weapons shattering. Finally, with a thunderous crash, the vines hurled them back into the trees. The night shook as their bodies hit the ground, leaving the field trembling in silence. John dropped to his knees, gasping for breath. The golden glow dimmed, retreating into the seed. His hands shook violently, and sweat poured down his face. Leora rushed to his side, her silver hands glowing as she touched his burned arm. The pain eased slightly, though his body still felt heavy. "You did it," she whispered. "The seed has accepted you. It trusts choices." "That's you." John shook his head weakly. "I'm no hero. I'm just a farmer." She smiled faintly. "That is why it chose you. Heroes seek glory. Farmers seek life." Rusty trotted over, whining softly, pressing his head against John's leg as if to remind him he wasn't alone. John looked at the trees where the hunters had fallen. For now, they were gone. But he knew in his gut this wasn't over. They would come back. They would bring more. He looked at the seed, still glowing softly in Leora's arms. The truth was clear now. This wasn't just a gift. It was a burden, a spark of creation that could save or doom the entire world. And somehow, for reasons he didn't understand, he was now its guardian. The night was quiet again, but the silence was heavy, filled with the promise of coming storms. The night was quiet again, but it was not peace. The silence that fell over John's field was heavy, tense, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. The broken soil smoked where the red blasts had struck, and the vines that had risen to protect him were slowly curling back into the ground, returning to stillness. John Miller knelt in the dirt, his chest heaving. His arms ached, his body shook, and his burned skin throbbed with pain. He had fought, yes, but he was no soldier. He was just a man, and the weight of what had happened was beginning to settle in his bones. Leora crouched beside him, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dark. She touched his arm again, her cold hands soothing the burn with faint pulses of light. "You are hurt," she whispered. John gave a dry laugh. "You think?" He looked down at his hands, still shaking. "I nearly died out there." "And yet you stood," she said softly, her gaze fixed on him. "You stood when no one else would, when even I could not." John looked at her, frowning. "What choice did I have? You needed help." Her voice wavered, full of something like wonder. "That is what makes you different. My people. When faced with danger, they protect themselves. They hide. They survive. But you chose to protect another, even when you had no chance of winning." John shook his head. "That's just what people do. At least, it's what we're supposed to do." Leora hugged the seed tighter to her chest. Its golden glow flickered, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. She looked down at it, then back at John. "Maybe that is why it chose you. Seeds do not listen to power. They listen to heart." John didn't answer. His mind was still racing. He looked at the trees where the hunters had vanished. He knew they weren't gone for good. They were regrouping, planning, waiting, and when they came back, they wouldn't come alone. Rusty whined "Semiso," softly, pressing close to John's side. The old dog's body trembled, but his eyes were fierce, ready to fight again if needed. John patted his head gently. "Good boy, you did well." The night air cooled, the stars returning overhead, shining like 1,000 watching eyes. John stood slowly, groaning as his muscles protested. He looked at Leora, who stood there clutching the seed, her silver face soft but troubled. "You keep talking about humans being different," John said finally, "but you don't know us. Not really. We're not all brave. We're not all good. You're putting too much faith in us." Leora shook her head slowly. "I know what I saw. You could have run. You could have left me, but you didn't. You chose to fight, not for glory, not for gain, but because it was right. That is human. That is rare." John sighed, rubbing his face with his hands. "Rare or not, I don't know if it's enough. Those hunters, they'll be back. And I can't fight an army with vines and dirt." Leora looked at him with a seriousness that made his stomach twist. "Then you must become more than a farmer." The words hit him hard. More than a farmer. But what else was he supposed to be? He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a hero. He didn't want this. He wanted his simple life back. Fields, crops, quiet nights. But deep down, he knew there was no going back. The ground rumbled faintly. Both John and Leora froze. Rusty growled, ears sharp. From the distance, far beyond the field, came a faint sound, a low hum, mechanical, heavy. John's blood ran cold. He knew that sound. The hunters weren't done. They were calling for more. Leora's silver eyes widened with fear. She clutched the seed tighter, whispering, "They bring others. They bring machines." John cursed under his breath. He turned and started walking quickly toward his house. "We can't stay here." Leora followed, her steps light, almost fluid. Ting across the soil. Where do we go? John's mind raced. He didn't know. His farm was all he had, but staying here meant death, not just for him, but maybe for the entire town. And if those hunters unleashed whatever machines they carried. He stepped into the old farmhouse, shutting the door behind them. The wooden walls groaned under the wind. The house felt smaller than ever, as though it could barely contain the storm brewing outside. Leora looked around with curious eyes, touching the old furniture, the photos on the walls, the worn tools hanging by the door. "This is your place?" she asked softly. John nodded. "Yeah. Home." She touched one of the photos, a faded picture of John's parents, long gone. She studied it with quiet interest. "You keep memories here." "Of course," John said. "That's what makes it home." Leora tilted her head. "My people, we do not keep such things. We move, we forget, we survive. But you humans, you remember. You keep your dead alive in pictures, in stories." She smiled faintly, almost sadly. "That too is different." John didn't know what to say. He just sat heavily in a chair, his body aching, his mind spinning. The seed sat in her arms, glowing faintly, casting soft golden light across the old wooden room. For a moment, there was peace, but only for a moment. The hum grew louder. This time, it wasn't distant, it was approaching. The windows rattled, the ground trembled again. Rusty barked, pacing by the door. John's stomach twisted. He stood quickly, grabbing the old shotgun that hung on the wall. It was useless against them, he knew that, but it was all he had. Leora looked at the weapon, and then at him. "That will not stop them." He gave a bitter laugh. "I know, but it makes me feel like I'm doing something." The hum turned into a roar. Red light began to glow through the windows, cutting across the darkness like fire. Leora's face grew pale. "They brought a hunter ship." John's grip tightened on the shotgun. "What the hell is that?" Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "A machine of war. It can burn forests, break mountains, erase cities." John's blood ran cold. They weren't just after her, they were after Earth, his farm, his people, everyone. The house shook violently as something massive landed in the fields outside. The windows shattered, the roof groaned under the pressure. John and Leora stumbled, holding on to whatever they could as the ground quaked. Rusty barked wildly, his voice nearly drowned by the roar outside. And then, silence. John slowly moved to the window, peering through the broken glass. His breath caught in his throat. In the middle of his field, where his crops once stood, now sat a black ship the size of a barn. Its surface gleamed like liquid metal, red lights glowing along its hull. Smoke hissed from its landing, and its engines pulsed with a sick, living hum. The hunters had returned, and they had brought something far worse. Leora's voice was barely a whisper. "If they take the seed now, there will be no stopping them." John swallowed hard, his hands trembling as he held the shotgun. He looked back at her, at the seed glowing faintly in her arms. He knew what she was asking of him. He knew what it meant. He was no soldier, he was no hero, but he was human, and humans were different. The ground shook as the hunter ship settled in John's field. Its black metallic surface gleamed like oil, its red lights pulsing like veins of fire. Smoke hissed from its engines, and the air was filled with the sharp scent of burning metal. John Miller's farmhouse, once a place of peace, now trembled under the shadow of something monstrous. He gripped his old shotgun tightly, though he knew it was as useless as a twig against what stood outside. Leora stood near the broken window, holding the glowing seed close to her chest. Her silver eyes shimmered with fear, yet her voice was steady. They will not stop. They will burn your world too. Take it. John swallowed hard, his mouth dry. Then we fight. The old dog, Rusty, growled low and steady, his eyes fixed on the crimson glow outside. The silence lasted only seconds before the ground cracked open. A ramp descended from the belly of the hunter ship, heavy footsteps echoing as armored figures marched down. There were more now, 10, maybe 12, each one armed with glowing red weapons, their eyes burning with hunger for the seed. The leader of the hunters emerged last, his armor cracked from the earlier battle, but his rage stronger than ever. His voice thundered like iron striking iron. You should have given it to us, human. Now your soil will drink fire. John's chest tightened, but before he could answer, the seed pulsed. The golden light spilled across the room, brighter than before, warm and alive. It was as though it felt the danger, as though it was breathing faster. Leora gasped softly. It is awakening. John turned to her, fear and awe mixing in his eyes. What does that mean? She looked at him, her voice trembling. It means the seed will show its true power. But it will need you. Only you. Before John could respond, the walls of his farmhouse shuddered as the hunters opened fire. Red blasts tore through the wooden walls, splintering the house into burning shards. John grabbed Leora's hand, dragging her toward the back door. Move! He shouted. They stumbled into the field, the golden glow of the seed lighting their path. Rusty darted ahead, barking furiously, as if trying to chase away the shadows of the invaders. The hunters advanced across the field, their red blasts scorching the soil, turning John's beloved crops into ash. His land, his life, was burning before his eyes. Rage flared in his chest, stronger than fear. He turned to Leora. If this seed has power, now's the time to use it. Her eyes locked on his, glowing like molten silver. It will not answer to me. It has chosen you. You must command it. John stared at her, stunned. Me? I don't know how. She stepped close, pressing the seed against his chest. Its warmth surged through him, filling his body like fire and lightning. Her voice was urgent, almost desperate. Do not think, do not doubt. Stand and it will answer. Your courage is its voice. The seed pulsed violently, golden light exploding outward in a wave. The hunters staggered, shielding their eyes, but pressed forward. Their leader roared, "Kill them both! Take the seed!" John clenched his fists. His body burned, his veins alight with strange energy. The golden light spread through the soil under his boots. The ground shivered. Then it happened. The earth split open, and massive vines burst forth, thicker, stronger, alive with golden fire. They whipped across the field like serpents, smashing into the hunters, tearing their weapons from their hands. The ground itself obeyed John's will, rising to shield him and Leora. The hunters fought back, their red blasts colliding with the vines, scorching the air with fire and smoke. But the seed's power was stronger. Every time John raised his hand, the earth responded. Vines lashed, roots surged, the soil itself became a weapon. Rusty barked furiously, weaving between the chaos, his small body fearless beside the storm. The leader of the hunters roared, tearing free from the vines. His armor cracked, sparks flying from its surface, but his strength was monstrous. He raised his weapon and fired directly at John. The blast struck his chest, yet it did not burn. The seed absorbed the energy, its golden glow flaring brighter than ever. The power surged back through John, and with a shout, he unleashed it. A beam of golden fire erupted from his chest, striking the leader squarely. The hunter screamed, his armor shattering as the blast hurled him across the field. He crashed into the soil with a thunderous crack, his mask splitting open, revealing a face twisted with rage and fear. John gasped for breath, falling to one knee. His body ached, every muscle screaming, but the seed pulsed inside him like a second heart. He could feel it, alive, aware, bound to him. Leora ran to his side, her silver hands glowing as she steadied him. "You did it," she whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "You are its guardian." John shook his head weakly. "I'm just a man." She looked at him with shining eyes. "No, you are human. That is greater." But the battle was not over. The hunter ship roared, its engines flaring. From its sides, mechanical arms unfolded, glowing red at their tips. The ship itself was alive, a weapon of war. Its core pulsed like a heart of fire, aiming down at the field. Leora's eyes widened. "They mean to burn everything." John forced himself to his feet. His shotgun was gone, his house destroyed, his field a battlefield. But the seed was alive in his chest, burning with light. He turned to the massive ship, his voice steady despite the terror in his veins. "Then we burned them first." The seed pulsed once, twice, then flared. The golden light spread across the field, brighter than the moon, brighter than the stars. Vines erupted in every direction, wrapping around the hunter ship, tearing into its black metal. Roots split the ground, surging upward, wrapping the engines, choking the fire. The ship roared in protest, its red lights flickering. It fired blast after blast, scorching the vines, but more came. The earth itself rose like a tidal wave, a storm of living green against steel and fire. John's body shook as the power coursed through him. He could feel the seed pushing him to his limit, testing him. His vision blurred, his muscles screamed, but still he stood. The hunter ship cracked under the pressure, its hull breaking, smoke pouring from its core. The hunters screamed, some fleeing, some crushed beneath the storm of vines. The leader crawled from the wreckage, his armor broken, his face twisted in hatred. He raised his broken weapon with shaking hands. "You cannot win, human. Seeds destroy as easily as they create. They will kill you too." John stepped forward, his body glowing with golden fire. His voice was calm, unyielding. "Then I'll make sure they destroy the right monsters." With a final pulse, the seed unleashed a wave of golden light that tore across the field. The hunter ship exploded in a thunderous roar, its fire consumed by vines and roots. The hunters were hurled into the night, their screams fading into silence. And then, quiet. The field lay in ruins. Smoke curled into the sky. The house was broken. The crops burned. But John and Leora still stood, the seed glowing faintly between them. John fell to his knees, gasping, the power fading from his veins. Leora knelt beside him, tears shining in her silver eyes. "You did it," she whispered. "You stopped them." But John knew better. He looked at the glowing seed, its light softer now, calmer. This was not the end. The hunters would return, others would come. The seed was too powerful, too valuable. He stared into the golden glow, his voice quiet but steady. "No, this is just the beginning." The flames of the hunter ship still burned in the distance, sending black smoke curling into the night sky. John Miller's farm, once quiet, simple, and ordinary, was now a battlefield of broken soil and shattered wood. The air smelled of ash and earth, a reminder that life could change in a heartbeat. John knelt in the dirt, his chest rising and falling like he had run 100 miles. His hands shook, his body ached, but inside his chest the seed pulsed with a quiet golden light. It was no longer raging like before. It was calm now, like a wild animal that had finally recognized its master. Rusty limped toward him through the smoke, tail wagging weakly. The dog's fur was dirty, but his eyes were alive and loyal as ever. John stroked his head, whispering, "Good boy, you stayed." Leora stood nearby, her silver hair glowing faintly in the darkness. Her skin shimmered under the broken moonlight, and her star-bright eyes never left John. She clutched the other seed, the second melon, tight against her chest, guarding it with the fierceness of a mother protecting her child. "You did it," she whispered, her voice both proud and trembling. "You destroyed their ship. No human has ever done what you have done tonight." John laughed bitterly, though his throat was dry. "Destroyed? Look around." He gestured to the burned fields, the collapsed house, the land he had worked his whole life. "This was my home, my father's land, and now it's ashes." Leora's gaze softened. She stepped closer, kneeling in the dirt beside him. "Homes can be rebuilt, soil can be healed, but what you did cannot be replaced. You showed the seed, the one thing no army, no empire, no machine can command." John looked at her with tired eyes. "And what's that?" She smiled faintly, her silver lips trembling. "Courage. The seed chose you because you were willing to fight for more than yourself. That is why humans are feared. That is why they will never understand you." John's jaw tightened. He wanted to argue, to push the weight off his shoulders. But deep inside, he knew she was right. Something had changed tonight, not just in his farm, but in himself. The night was quiet for a moment, broken only by the crackle of burning wreckage. But then, far above, the stars shifted. John looked up. His stomach dropped. High in the sky, faint red lights glimmered, small at first, then growing, like embers falling from the heavens. Leora's face went pale. She stood quickly, clutching the seed tighter. "More ships," she whispered. "They will come for the seed again. The hunters were only the beginning." John's heart sank. He had barely survived one battle, and now more were coming. He looked at the faint glow in his chest. The seed pulsed gently, as if waiting, but how long could he keep fighting? "Why?" he muttered, his voice low and raw. "Why me? Why here? Why bring this war to my farm, of all places?" Leora turned, her eyes filled with sorrow and guilt. "Because Earth was not supposed to be found yet. My people thought your world was hidden, safe. But the seeds call to those who hunger, and once you touched it, once it bonded to you, the galaxy felt it." John's head spun. "You're saying they know? All of them? Every monster out there now knows I've got this thing?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, you are its guardian now. Its light cannot be hidden. Not anymore." John clenched his fists, anger burning through the fear. "Then I'm not just protecting my farm anymore. I'm protecting the whole damn planet." Rusty barked, as if agreeing. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of rain mixed with smoke. The stars above seemed sharper, brighter, as if the universe itself had opened its eyes on John Miller. Leora stepped closer, her voice soft but urgent. "You do not have to face this alone. I will help you. My knowledge, my people. Some of us still believe in life, not destruction, and the seeds will answer to us together." John looked at her, searching her silver eyes for any sign of a lie. But all he saw was truth and fear, not fear of him, but fear for him. Finally, he nodded. "Then we fight, but on one condition." Leora tilted her head. "What is it?" John's voice hardened, steady as stone. "We fight like humans. No running, no hiding. If they come, we stand. We make them bleed for every step." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then they will learn what it means to face a human." The ground trembled again. In the distance, thunder rolled, not from the clouds but from engines. The faint red lights in the sky grew brighter, multiplying. Dozens of them. Leora's face tightened. "The storm is coming." John rose slowly, his body weak but his spirit unbroken. He looked at the glowing seed in his chest, then at the one in her arm. Together they pulsed, their golden light pushing against the dark sky. He looked at Leora, his voice calm but fierce. "Then let it come. If they want Earth, they'll have to go through me first." Rusty barked again, louder this time, standing at his side like a soldier ready for war. The red lights above spread across the sky, like fire raining from the heavens. The hum of ships grew louder, shaking the air, rattling the ground. And yet John did not flinch. He planted his boots firmly in the dirt of his broken field, staring up at the storm. He was not just a farmer anymore. He was the guardian of the seed. And humans were different. The night ended not with silence, but with the promise of war.